Today, I'm going to walk you through the real reasons your Instagram isn't growing despite your hard efforts. And no, it's not what you think it is, because I'm not talking reels or trending sounds. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, a show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. You're posting reels, you're adding trending sounds, you're looking at what the best in the world are doing, you're hopping on trends, and yet you don't really see the ROI on your account, because despite the effort you're putting in, your Instagram account and your email list and all of that aren't actually growing, and you're wondering, can it still work? I have clients who have grown thousands of followers in the past couple of years, and the first thing I'll tell you is, yes, you can still grow even without TikTok. But no, you can't do it in the same way as it was possible in 2020, for example. I've said this a lot to my clients, but 2020 content won't get us to where we need to go, where we want to go in 2025. So if you're currently struggling with that not growing Instagram account today, I'm going to take you through a couple of strategic shifts that you need to make, not necessarily in how you're doing things, but more so in your mindset, so that you can really shift and understand why your Instagram strategy currently isn't working. So the first thing that I think is so very apparent, and I talked about this at my Imperfect event a couple of weeks ago as well, is that a lot of us are still posting like it's 2020, and I'm not talking about the fact that we might be posting static images, although that is also definitely something people are doing wrong, because we do need, for example, most accounts need reels and stuff like that, but I think that's fairly obvious. I think what is more wrong with how we are posting is that often we are still talking about the topics that we would have talked about a couple of years ago. But I asked this question at my event, and I just asked the audience to raise their hand if they have changed in the past 5 years and their interests have changed. And every single person put up their hand. And why is that? I don't know about you, but I've gone from being a 27-year-old in a relationship with plus kids to being a 32-year-old living in a house, scaling to 8 figures in the hopefully immediate future. Living with a different partner, completely tweaking my health, having a team, all kinds of things that I didn't have in 2020. So I've changed a lot. AI has changed a lot. My lifestyle has changed. My priorities have changed. And what I want to say is probably so has your life. Let's have a look at that. If you look at your own life and where you were in 2020 compared to now, how has your life changed? Have you, did you become a mom? Did you become a boss? Did you become an entrepreneur? Did your relationship change? Did your lifestyle change? Did you start taking up certain types of sports, start offering different types of things in your business? What changed in the past 5 years? And how has that changed, for example, the conversations you have with your girlfriends when you're going out to dinner? I went to dinner last night with a couple of my girlfriends, and it was really funny because a couple of the boyfriends of my girlfriends, they actually went on this, biking contest situation. And it was really funny how the whole conversation was about that. And 5 years ago, we would have had very different conversations, I think, in my friend group. But now it was all about that. And it was about one of my friends who had a baby. And if it's really true that, how do I say this? It's certain types of moms have certain types of kids because her baby's like really calm. And we're like, is it because she's calm that the baby is calm? So our conversations are completely different than what they would have been like 5 years ago. Now, if my conversations with my friends are different, and with my clients, by the way, and your conversations with your friends might be different, and with your partner and your current struggles keeping you up at night, chances are that your audience and your ideal customer avatar is what we would like to call, the lead you want to close into a sale. Their pains, symptoms, and conversations have changed. And that means that we need to switch up our content. Let me give you an example of something you might relate to in terms of my marketing, because I'll use myself as an example. I think I'm not doing that Just like as a little ego trip, I'm doing that because, well, you're here, so you probably know some of my marketing. And if you might have noticed it, but in the past couple of years, my health has changed a lot, and I worked really hard on that. And I also get a lot of questions about that. And so a couple of weeks ago, I built myself a custom GPT that is my cortisol and composition coach. And I showed this to my clients where I take screenshots of my aura stats, I upload it into that coach that I built in the custom GPT. And it gives me feedback on how I can manage myself better as a high performer. And my clients were all like, oh my God, I want that. And even the woman who does my skincare treatments, I went there for a hydrofacial and she was like, oh my God, I didn't know all of this was possible with ChatGPT. Now I need an Aura ring and I need to know how that works because, it's so difficult to, go for walks or take care of ourselves, all of that stuff. And 5 years ago, maybe a certain segment of my audience would have been interested in that. But I've definitely seen that a big part of my audience has grown with me and they've also encountered new struggles. For example, maybe it was gaining weight due to cortisol or having been in the entrepreneurship game for a bit longer. Now they're struggling with team members, whereas 5 years ago, maybe they were struggling getting started as an entrepreneur. So this is a little bit contradictory, but I believe to have really strong marketing and if you have beginner programs and you want to continue to attract the masses, we do need content that will always attract new people. But I think we also need to make sure that we are growing as our audience is growing. And I think sometimes our marketing stops working because we keep doing the same thing, but our audience isn't interested in the same thing. They are interested in a new message because you probably have grown and are not talking about it. And someone on my team said it really well. I think it was last year. And she said, sometimes our marketing kind of needs to change and evolve because otherwise this would kind of be like Leonardo DiCaprio still talking about the Titanic. In the meantime, he has done many other movies. I do get that in the fandom. A lot of people are still talking about Titanic, the movie, but he has shot a lot of new movies and he has been in the news about a lot of different things. And I think we get bored when we continue talking about the same things. And it's also not what our clients are actually struggling with. So for example, for me, with a lot of my mastermind clients, and also a lot of people just basically in my entire membership, the Online Business Club, I see many of them struggle with their phone habits, how to, make money online, but not be online all the time, how to take care of their health and their family and turn off their brain and disconnect from their business. And so I've noticed that if I'm always talking to them about that stuff in Q&A sessions and in DMs and messages, and when I'm hosting a workshop with clients and we're talking about profit all day, and then at dinner, everyone will talk about how difficult it is to find a man who's not intimidated by them, for example, then that basically means that we need to take some of that and infuse it into our content. So my big question to you, if you currently feel like your marketing isn't really doing it and you're not really reaching your ideal client, is where's the gap between what your ideal clients are actually saying, talking about with their friends when they're going out for dinner, for example, or talking about to you, after hours, if you would go to dinner with them, versus like, what are you actually communicating in your content? Because I think often we look at content as one thing and communication as something else, whereas we actually need to make it like meet in the middle. And obviously we need a plan and we can't just post every brain fart online. But I do think we get to change some of the topics we're talking about. And so for me, fitness and health have always been something very interesting to me. But a couple of years ago, maybe I was worried about gaining weight. And now I'm not necessarily worried about gaining weight. I'm worried about, cortisol and how can I become someone who recovers from a 200 people event in one day because I want my nervous system to adapt and stuff like that. And I wasn't struggling with those things 5 years ago, or at least I wasn't aware I was struggling with those things 5 years ago. So how have you evolved? How has your ideal client evolved? And can you kind of just like meet them there a bit more? And this doesn't mean that you have to make offers about all of the things your clients are talking about, but it does mean that maybe what you are sharing online is just really, really boring and really vanilla. And you need to start talking more about the things that they are actually struggling with, because it used to be that people would ask me, which tool do you use for planning on Instagram? But now people are asking me all kinds of different things. And there's also still people asking me the basic planning tool questions. So that's what you could use for your always on content. And then maybe the other content could be more of your lifestyle and personal branding content, just some food for thought. So that's the first thing. It's not 2020 anymore. And your content and marketing need to evolve to 2025 as well. So if you have evolved and you are interested in different things and you're talking about different things with your parents and friends, chances are your audience is as well. And then the second reason your Instagram isn't growing, that isn't due to reels and stuff, is basically because you're talking in solutions, not in symptoms. And this is something I learned in the past 2 years. It has completely changed my entire marketing game. It's that we are often trying to position a solution, but we're not talking about the symptom, but people aren't aware that they need the solution if they aren't aware that there is actually a problem. So we go from symptoms to problems to solutions. So an example could be that the symptom could be someone is broke, and the problem could be that they spend too much money. And then the solution could be the 5-step system to spend less money. People aren't going to be interested in the 5-step system to spend less money if they aren't aware that the reason they're broke is because they spend too much money, which is the problem. So it's symptom, problem, solution. And so what happens in a lot of people's marketing and sales, and this used to work when there was just less noise online, is that they are saying, here's 5 tips to spend less money. And by the way, if you want my help, buy my program. That used to work. Nowadays, there's so much noise and there's so much information out there that simply positioning solutions isn't enough anymore. And if you really want to stand out and attract your ideal customer avatar, but also really create a deeper connection with your ideal customer avatar, I would say, or with your lead, let's call them leads because ICA is really long, it's that we need to make sure our marketing is more relatable, so that people start realizing more that there might be a problem that they need a solution for. So I think what's a little bit of an issue here is that a lot of us are experts in the service-based industry. And so you can make sketches about this or you can make posts about this, but you aren't struggling with this problem anymore. So it might feel really off to you to make a post about, I used to be broke until I realized I was spending too much money. Because you're like, I don't want to downplay myself, or maybe you didn't struggle with being broke, or you don't want to create a sketch because you're like, well, I don't want people to think I'm broke because I'm a finance coach, right? But our audience does need us to push out content that helps them realize that they don't have to be broke. This is just the example, right? Another example could be a health coach talking about cortisol and circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms, cortisol is very much health lingo. Hey, just a quick break because I have something for you. If you're here and you've been listening for a while, you probably noticed that somewhere along the way, I kind of started changing the angle of my episodes. I stopped talking about how to start your business and started talking more about how to scale your business, how to lead, how to make more money independent from your time. And along with that, I have been talking more and more to CEOs, not just beginners anymore, although I love coaching those. I've silently been reshaping this podcast to really be the buddy for any ambitious CEO who's, starting to lead a team, who's having to deal with mistakes, and also who's bumping into their own nervous system. And this is also exactly what I have been adding in my product suite, because 2 years ago, I decided to start one-on-one coaching again, and I opened up a high-level mastermind, including one-on-one coaching and 6 monthly retreats. And currently, I am back to enrolling new members because I only choose a couple of people a year to work with so we can scale their business to $1 million and beyond. And right now, I have some capacity opening up to enroll a few more masterminders and to go on a retreat together. So if you've been listening, you're like, well, I do multi-6 figures, I like online marketing, I'd love to scale, and I'd love to have Amy as my personal business coach. I would love to see if we get to work together. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and apply so we can chat and see if this is a fit, which goes both ways, obviously. So either go to the link in the description of this episode or just go to Instagram and message me mastermind, and I'll personally message you. It's not automated, and let's chat and set up an intake call. Okay, talk soon. most people don't know about these words, but because you're in this type of circle jerk of content, just like I'm in a circle jerk of online business lingo, you just heard me do it. Leads, ICA, ideal customer avatar, this is all just like business lingo, right? So in the health sector, this could be circadian rhythms, cortisol, and all kinds of fancy terms. If you're talking about that stuff, you're basically excluding a lot of people who could really benefit from your services. But let's take a look at if that's the solution, going to sleep and living according to your circadian rhythms and getting sunlight on your face within 30 minutes of waking up. You're like, yeah, sure, but this is not, entering my brain. Like when I see that content, I'm like, circadian what? But then if we would look at symptoms, a really good symptom could be that you make a post about someone who's like, oh, if you're always snoozing, this is not normal. You shouldn't be this tired after sleeping enough hours, that you keep snoozing. You should be able to wake up by yourself. And you're like, oh my God, is snoozing not normal? I thought it was just me. I thought I was just always going to wake up tired. And then you could say the problem is that you aren't getting the right type of sleep, or your REM sleep is off, or REM, I don't know how to say that. Or maybe it could be like the problem is that you're going to bed at a time that isn't suited for your body, something like that. And then the solution could be like, here is your circadian rhythm chart or whatever. I'm saying this in like, this is not my zone of genius. But I know that I used to look at just waking up really groggy and snoozing and thinking, I don't know why this is happening. I can't get out of bed in the morning. That's a symptom. And a good health coach who wants to grow online and who wants to attract new people who are interested in solving their sleep issues should be talking more about the symptoms than they are talking initially about the solutions. Because circadian rhythm, if I'm not aware the snoozing is an issue, I'm not going to be attracted to that post. So this is where I want to challenge you is, are you focusing more on solutions, or are you actually relating to your audience by talking about symptoms and talking about problems? And think of posts that would say, it's not normal that, or this shouldn't be happening, or why this is happening to you, or how to break through symptoms. If you make more posts like that, then you are going to see that more people are actually going to be interested in your solutions. And as a result of that, also in the product or programs you are offering. So if you feel like your marketing hasn't really been landing, or your Instagram hasn't been growing, have a look at your content. It could be that you are making carousels and you're making reels and you're thinking, I'm making the reels, I'm adding the trending sounds, why is this not working? Look at the actual content. It could be that you're positioning solutions and lists. You're like, 5 ways to, I don't know, improve your circadian rhythm. I don't know if that's a thing. And you're like, it's not landing. Try and tweak that type of post, translate this to something you've created, to a symptom. So for example, 5 reasons you continue to snooze, or why you're always tired in the morning, and really speak the language of your ideal client. You're going to see that all of the posts, or most of the posts that are shared, saved, or forwarded to, for example, their life partners, are usually things that people actually recognize themselves in. So if you're currently struggling to grow your account, my advice would not necessarily be to start looking at trending sounds and hopping on whatever, and I mean, you can use those, but add them as a layer on top of content that really, really speaks to your ideal client. And think about, is this a piece of content that they would share with their significant other, or with their best friends, or that they would save and are like, I should really think about that. I want to remember this. Then you're probably venturing more into symptoms and problems area. And then afterwards, or later in the content, or later in the caption, or in different pieces of content, or in your podcasts and more nurture content, talk about how to fix the problems. And then once you're talking about that, you can position your products really strongly. I hope that makes sense. I know this is a bit advanced strategy, but if you can really combine the first tip and the second tip I just gave you, I think you're going to look at your content and you're going to be like, yeah, if I were the ideal client, I wouldn't love this either. And I think that's one of the smartest things we get to do, right? As business owners, just continue to be really critical of what we are pushing out and think, would we like this content? If you don't like watching your own stories, if you don't like watching your own reels, would your ideal client like it? So I've noticed that there's a huge difference, for example, for myself when I talk about being an entrepreneur versus, my managing my health as a 7-figure business owner and, fixing the fact that my stress levels were too high. All of a sudden, it becomes much more appealing because I'm adding in different layers in my content that people recognize themselves in because they've also been at it for a while and struggling to disconnect from work, for example. So these are a couple of, I think, good tips. By the way, before I tell you about tip number 3, I wanted to say that a couple of months ago, I was actually in LA and I was like, well, let's see how I could improve my own content. And I kind of wanted to think outside of the box because you know how sometimes it's really easy to help other people, but you're stuck yourself. So I wrote a prompt and I was actually writing this for a client of mine and I tested it on myself. And it was a roast prompt for Instagram about why your Instagram is not attracting your ideal customer avatar, new leads, why it's not converting to your lead magnets, why people aren't sticking around on your profile. So a lot of people will experience, for example, that they see that their views are increasing and their reach is increasing, but their account isn't growing. And this probably has to do with the way your profile is set up. So I created an Instagram roast prompt where you can upload your entire Instagram profile and it will give you very concrete feedback on how you can improve your bio, your highlights, your pinned posts, the visuals on your feed, and how you can break through the vanilla online. So it basically also told me I'm very vanilla. Thanks, ChatGPT. And it basically roasted me and it told me all the things that were wrong and that I could improve to attract more ideal customers. So if you want to give that a try, I'll gift it to you for free. All you have to do is message me InstaProof, one word, on Instagram, and I'll send it over. And you can test it out and see if when you apply this prompt, you're going to see how maybe you're in too deep and why your content isn't actually attracting and converting your ideal leads. Okay, so third and last tip of the day. Do you like this, by the way? I asked it in last week's episode, but I think I'm really trying to create podcasts that break through the noise of the solution types of podcasts of like 3 tips too, and I really want to make sure that we are getting mindset shifts and that we are realizing like, oh, the marketing game in 2025 online is not the same as it was in 2020. So if you like this style of episode where I'm talking a little bit more strategy, going a little bit deeper, let me know on Instagram. Just send me a message. Do you like it more when I talk about this, or would you love it more if I would just give you a very practical episode is like 3 tips, planning tools for Instagram? Let me know. Just send me a DM and let me know if you prefer a little bit more advanced, deeper strategy episode like this, or if you'd prefer more of the hands-on, simple episodes. Just message me on FastForwardAmy and I'd love to hear from you. Yeah. So last but not least, I wrote this down on my notepad. You're trying to go viral with videos you didn't post. This is something I've done a lot, and it's like we wonder why we aren't growing faster, or we wonder why our reach isn't increasing, but we haven't actually been as consistent as we should have. And I know I said I'm not gonna bore you with basic stuff of the real reason your Instagram isn't growing, and I did say that, and you don't need me to tell you to post reels and to post trending sounds and to, go with the times, but you might need me to tell you that you're maybe not doing it as often or as consistent as you think you are. And the reason I know this is because I am also guilty of this. Sometimes I think I have created heaps of valuable content. And I have created a ton of talking videos and stuff like that. And I'll go to my Instagram and I'll look at what I've been doing and I'll scroll through my archive of my stories and I'm like, wow, you've really just only been posting pictures, or you haven't been speaking on camera as much as you thought you were. And it makes sense that people aren't as attached to you or whatever as you think they are or as you would like them to be, because you haven't been posting as consistently, or like haven't been posting the value you need to post as consistently. And this is where I want to invite you to be very honest with yourself And I get this so often. I'll get these audits in my online business club and people asking me, hey, why am I not growing? And then my team knows this. When they ask my help to identify why a client's account hasn't been growing, the first thing I'll ask them is, how consistent have they been? And if I go on their account and then the last post was a week ago and the post before that was 3 weeks ago, I'm like, I'm not even auditing this because you're not giving yourself enough of a chance to figure out what works. I am still on an account of over 60,000 people posting really shitty content. And I know I can't complain about not growing if I'm not actually analyzing the shitty content, analyzing the good content, and trying enough things to discover what works in today's day and age. So if you're currently not growing as much as you want to, have you given it a shot to post something really consistently for 100 days in a row and to actually look at it every day and tweak it? Because growth online is still very much possible. As I said in the beginning of this episode, I have a ton of clients who have been growing really well online, but it's not an accident. They are really working on it and analyzing it. So yes, you can still grow online in today's day and age, but no, it probably won't happen by accident. Success rarely comes from something you did once and then, it just worked. I always think about, Olympic athletes or Formula One drivers or just like any type of pro athlete. They also didn't become gold medalists at the Olympics by accident. Simone Biles didn't train once and then win so many medals. Michael Phelps didn't swim once and then win so many medals. Just the same for us. In marketing and in sales and in launches, we won't just do a bunch of sales because we did something once. Usually when I also see that my sales are down and I'm like, why did that happen? I thought I tried really hard. Then I sit down and I literally start, what did you actually do? And the number one thing I'll always identify between a launch that did well and a launch that didn't do as well as I hoped it would do is that I was hoping versus taking action. Some of my best launches have had hundreds of pieces of content. Does that mean you always need to do more? No, you can strategize and get better and create bigger ROI on what you're doing. But I do think that we need to be a little bit more critical of ourselves sometimes, that we're hoping really hard and we're putting a lot of energy into that hope and into, why didn't that work? Versus actually just using that energy and doing it, or like putting it into just like more volume. That could be speaking videos, that could be showing up consistently, but we cannot expect to go viral or to grow or to make sales from content we never posted or that we posted in a previous launch. It's just not going to work. So that's my third tip to you, is be very honest about how consistent you've been. Because this is what I tend to tell my clients. If you get to choose between a bad workout plan and a really, really perfect workout plan, but you do the bad workout plan consistently versus the really, really, really perfect workout plan occasionally, the bad workout plan followed consistently is probably still going to work better than the perfect plan you didn't follow. And that's a wrap for today. I hope to see you in next week's podcast episode. Every Tuesday, there's a new one. If you like this episode, I want to ask you to subscribe to the podcast, because when you subscribe, you are going to get the latest every Tuesday and maybe even some bonus episodes, because we have our episode number 300 coming up. And don't forget to go and grab my roast prompt. If you just message me InstaProof, all one word, on FastForwardAmy on Instagram, or go to the link in the description, you can go and grab that. Honestly, use it, insert it into ChatGPT, upload a couple of screenshots of your profile. You're going to be amazed at the information it gives you and the blind spots it will reveal as to why your Instagram isn't currently growing. Okay, good luck and talk to you soon. Next week, Tuesday. Bye. You want to make money on Instagram, but you're not exactly sure what you actually need in order to make that happen. Chances are you're creating content and you're trying different things, but it seems to not really click together, and you're wondering why those other people are getting in all of those sales, but you aren't. Well, in reality, even if you're only selling for 30 euros every day, that's an extra 1,000 a month if you can make it work. But so many people actually can't, because they don't see the full picture and they are missing one key element. That's why I've made the Instagram income map for my clients, which is a PDF workbook that you can go through in 1 hour. You'll discover the 8 building blocks that determine whether you just attract clients on Instagram or just talk about sales, or that you can actually go from attracting clients to getting in sales every single day. And I want that for you. So you can go and grab the workbook now, available for only 27 euros for a limited time. Go to fastforwardamy.com/income map and I'll send it over to you instantly, or click the link in the description of this episode.